Right, this is an F-44AA pulse rifle. It's rotating breech electronic pulse action. That's what the Colonial Marines used. AA stands for aiming assist. So, right, you put that under your arm. That's it. Right, this hand here. All right, aim it towards Andy. Pull the trigger halfway. Don't worry, the safety's on. See? Aiming assistance. If that thing comes towards you, you point it in this general direction, you'll never miss.
Where'd you learn all this?
Games and magazines.
Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And
the Lady Wan?
oh, listen up, folks. This is going to be a weird one. So we're doing a mashup hybrid episode of ScreenRun and the first run. For your ScreenRun devotees out there, we covered the Alien franchise in season 2, right?
Yes.
And we have to come back, just like we're going to have to whenever that latest Kevin Smith movie comes out, too. Don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, why don't we just really mash everything together and make everybody as uncomfortable as possible? So we'll be talking about Alien, Romulus, and lots of other stuff. We'll still do the physical media picks. And you know what? We're going to tell you what our 5 favorite Alien movie scenes are. We'll tell you what we think the best performance is and more. It's going to be raucous. Somebody's probably going to get hurt. Hopefully nobody cries. Juan, take it away.
I said this before, but this feels like you invited me over to your house, and now I'm just cooking a meal in your kitchen. Like, it's very... I'm making myself at home. I'm taking over. This is not my house, but it's fine.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Hi, Matt.
That's why we invited you over. So...
Yeah. So we talked about this a good bit on our final episode of season 4 of ScreenRun, where we discussed the Body Snatchers films. But when we knew another Alien film was coming out, we got to revisit. We discussed every single thing. I've now seen every Alien film, and I'm obviously an Alien expert. And I was just super stoked to go in fresh to something and not be the only person who'd never seen it before. Yeah.
Look at you.
None of you had seen it. I'm on level playing field. So, yeah. Excited for this one. There's not that much. I always kind of start things off with how did this movie come to be? This movie came to be because Disney wants some of that Alien money. That's it. It's just, we're just going to keep the franchise going. And it's not, there's no major drama. There's no complications. There's just, they made a movie.
Wasn't there another Alien movie with somebody else that was in discussion for a long time that wasn't Fede Alvarez? Was it
Blomkamp?
Yeah. Is that this? Okay.
Nope. Nope. Just everything kind of got thrown out after the way things ended with Covenant, and then it just kind of fell apart for a while. And what it always takes is corporate dollars to bring things back again. So with the shuffling of studios, we were back with more. And totally new approach.
Can I tap the
ahead.
brakes on you there?
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the word new in regards to describing.
I let me clarify. I meant new from all of the things that started and stopped previously. This is...
Okay, Blomkamp's, and then you have Ridley Scott's proposed trilogy or quadrilogy. Or
right. This is not that. This is the Force Awakens Alien. Right?
I think it's a very apt comparison, yes.
It's the same movie as the first movie, but different people. And, a lot of people love The Force Awakens. So I'm just going to say, it's just the same movie again. But, yeah.
Is it demure?
It is mindful. It is.
All right.
Yeah.
I've seen that on Instagram, and I know I'm dating myself. I have no idea what that's about.
Oh, well, it's just, it's a way to approach life. Very cutesy, very demure, very mindful. All things that cannot be used to describe the creatures in this film. They are they are none of those things. Yeah.
Do we want to give a little background then about like, what the plot of the film is then? Do you want to do that one? Matt, do you want to handle... Usually this is where I'll yell at Matt. What is Alien Romulus all about?
Yeah, sure. So it's the future. It's in between, I think, the events of Alien and Aliens, but I think it might be after Prometheus as well. But essentially...
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause Prometheus is the first film,
Yeah.
chronologically.
And then Covenant.
Then Covenant.
And then
Okay.
Alien.
So you know better
and
than I
then
do.
now Alien Romulus. And then Aliens. So while this movie is happening, Ripley is somewhere just chilling in hypersleep, just floating along.
For the next 60
like,
years.
right? She has not been caught and recovered yet.
So, yeah, so this basically this space station drifts into orbit of a mining planet, a bunch of young people who are desperate to get off of it and find a better life because apparently corporate overlords are terrible. Who knew? They break on, try to get some cryostasis pods so they can take the 9-year trip to another planet. And of course, there's bad stuff on the space station, and their hubris is their undoing, as it always is in these films.
That's good. No, I think that's sweet, concise, demure. It is mindful. It is... Well done,
I
Matt.
appreciate that.
So what do you think, Matt? Do you agree with Juan's analogy?
I don't know if it's this. I don't know if I agree with the Force Awakens analogy. So I think I do agree in the sense that there is a shit ton of fan service, which we talked about, I think, when we talked about another film this summer, Deadpool, where I didn't mind the fan service so much, but here it kind of sticks out a little bit. But I feel like it's cribbing from a lot of what came before. It's Alien, there's touches of Prometheus, there's touches of Aliens, and I think this movie is at its most successful when it's just kind of in the brief moments where it's almost its own thing, where Fede Alvarez is doing Fede Alvarez things, but when he's kind of laying this kind of constant foundation of what came before, it is a little tired. It's a little less successful. I didn't not like the movie. In fact, I did have a pretty good time, but I felt I was a little let down overall.
Alvarez said he wanted to use this movie to kind of bridge the Ridley Scott prequels to the rest of the movies. So I think giving himself the extra challenge of that was, personally, I feel like he was successful creating like a string between there without it being just to continue my Star Wars analogies, without it being Rogue One, where it was like, now we have explained this, there, plot hole closed. Okay, now you know. Like, he's just trying to like connect the dots a bit without getting stuck where that's all he can do. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah, I think he does a pretty good job, I think, of bridging the films. I think for the most part he had to put a couple round pegs in some square holes or something like that. And I think for the most part I think it's pretty successful for that. I think that if I want to talk about things I thought were really good, I think Alvarez does a great job in world building. I love his kind of mashup. A little bit of Blade Runner in there as well on the home world, but the set designs on this I think are great. I think the sound design on this is fantastic. I think the practical effects look great. I think the atmosphere of the film is great. There's a lot of things that I think he pulls off. But, so even one of the influences supposedly on the film for him was the game Alien Isolation. And there's one particular scene that screams that to me when they have to travel through this hallway, this room, without making a sound. And I'm like, that's like a video game area. Like that's
and
clear.
Your controller would buzz if you were making too much noise.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like it would vibrate.
Yeah. So at times that's part of the issue is it does feel kind of just more like a bunch of disparate parts kind of put together. And some of this stuff too feels entirely too convenient. Like the timing of the aliens showing up always allows for our characters to get into place and kind of have their moments, deliver their dialogues. And then we got to give everything time to breathe. And now we bring in the alien because this would be the appropriate time to do it. Right? There's just an overall, for me, lack of urgency and suspense for me for the film. Like, when I think about his Evil Dead reboot, that film is relentless. Right? His Don't Breathe film, suffocating. Not here. Heck, I even think Covenant is more gripping and more intense than this film. It just doesn't feel organic to me. It just feels like layers and layers of kind of staged moments.
I felt intensity. I felt a sense of pressure. Mm-hmm. I kept checking because I'm a huge nerd. I kept checking my watch during every time an announcement was made until impact to make sure it was accurate, and it was, and I love that. You know, once the ticking clock of we're going to crash into the rings started, they kept to that, and there was no like, oh, it's 10 minutes until impact, and then like 20 minutes in the movie go by and you're like, I guess it wasn't, or the other way around. Like, it was pretty true to it, and it was a full like half an hour. Basically, it was like the last half an hour was this is where we're going with this. So I found that to be effective, and I found like the varying kind of, now that you point at the video game of it all, like, yeah, I can kind of see that with like, this is the next level that you've got to face. How are you going to get through this? How are you going to get through that? It does feel a bit like a video game level instead of like a new scene. But I'm kind of wondering if that's just like just a different approach to storytelling now that starts happening because video games are so cinematic that because I felt that way during other movies. I can't think of any right now, but where I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this feels like the next level that we have to face. And I'm wondering if that's, video games have gotten more cinematic and people play a lot of video games, so they know that that's how we can keep our attention. So I don't know if that's intentional or not.
Scary ass video game though. Alien Isolation is scary.
Yeah.
That is a scary freaking game.
I haven't played it. It's like, I think on sale for like $6 on the PlayStation Network right now. So I don't know if I should pick it up.
Yeah,
Matt.
you
What do
should.
think?
I mean, it's one of those games where like if literally if there's a microphone and like you fart, the alien will hear you. Like it will literally, like if it will react to like your breath and like ambient noise in the room and stuff like that. It's creepy as shit.
That's so scary. Ugh.
I don't know. I mean, listen, it brings the blood and guts, right? So we got that. I loved, there's one particular scene with the metamorphosis from the smaller to the larger alien thing in the cocoon that I think is one of the more intense and disturbing scenes in the entire franchise. All right. I mean, it's very effective. And he shifts from kind of a slasher movie back to haunted house movie, right? But again, a lot of it just plays a little bit too obvious to me as we go from, set to set. And which is weird too, because I didn't not like it. I enjoyed it was a nice kind of Disney version of a haunted house kind of thing, right? But when I say Disney, I don't mean like milquetoast or sanitized. I just mean assembly line. All right, this is where kind of my issue with some of the MCU films. Like, just this is what we're going to do now. We're going to just the Disney assembly line sequel, right? And focusing too much on honoring the past to keep the audiences happy. And I don't even so much have an issue with the line delivery that a lot of people are freaking out about. My issue with that line delivery is that I think it's a Mississippi or two too slow. He has to deliver it sooner.
It is weirdly slow. It's
or if they
weird.
just left the end off. I mean, I think you would have gotten to the point where, just left off those last couple words, and it would have been fine. I would not have had any problem with it at all.
Yeah, totally agree.
And then what about what about Rook? I think Rook as a character would have worked better for me if I feel the CGI, I should say, was stronger. I just felt like it wasn't as tight as it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like Princess Leia, and like to talk about Rogue One. I mean, it's the same type of thing. I mean, it actually works.
Yeah, it's the
pretty well when he's like on like a video screen. Like it looks real, but like when you're in the room with him, it doesn't work as well. But it sounded just like him, so that kudos for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely, Matt. Like when they were showing him on the screen, and even the voice through the screen, I was like, "Oh, this is eerie. Like this is the same thing." But yeah, it didn't look quite right when you're in the room with him, and I know that's just because of the technology they're using. But I did excuse it within the world of the movie because I was like, well, he is only half of him, and he's been just on the floor face down for a long time.
True.
Like this isn't a fresh out of the box
Right.
android. This has been through some shit.
That's a good point.
So I excused it, but I know that's like I am being forgiving. I am going out of my way to be like, okay, it's fine, but it is an uncanny valley kind of situation. But I think, Chris, what you said about this being sort of like the Disney formula for continuing a franchise, I feel like there must be some secret scorecard where they're like, you get this many points for a callback line, you get this many points for bringing a dead actor back to life, and they got to get 100 points or something.
Right.
Like they're working towards like a formula or a pattern or an algorithm that is like numbers based and not feeling based, because that line does not feel right. I didn't go, oh, like I have with other things in other movies, but I agree with you, Matt. Like we could just stopped it at get away from her.
Right. Well, I mean, there's so much of that throughout the whole film. Like, you know, the Rain has got the gun and she's coming off the elevator, and it's like it's framed just like Ripley coming off the elevator in Aliens. You know, it's like it looks exactly the same, even with the blowing, you know, wind ruffling her hair as she gets ready to get down to business. So like, there's stuff like that throughout the whole film. But again, there are pieces of this that I really appreciated, that he gave us little glimpses into things we've never seen before, like the whole fact of these colonies are not as effective as you think they are. Like the science is not that sound, and like there's no sunlight, and they can just decide that you can stay forever, kind of thing. And I think all that stuff was, as part of the world building, was really interesting, because we don't really get to see a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I loved that in particular because as much as like watching Alien Covenant the whole time, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with all of these people? In this movie, there is never any point where I'm like, why would you do that? Because I know their life is garbage. So yes, it's worth risking it. And then, you know, the ship crashes and they're going after it, and like they have to, because otherwise they're going to die up here. Like they're making choices that you know are going to turn out badly for them, but not in the face of the obvious right decision. Like they're
rational decision. Yeah,
it makes sense. And I loved the kind of the shift of our android character, of it's not like a twist to the audience of now we know he's secretly working for the company. Like it's to them. They have to face that his directive has changed. And what does that mean for them? It's not Ash working against everybody and nobody knows. It's not David pulling the strings behind the scenes. Like they are faced with it. And I feel like that adds a level to the conflict of the company that we haven't gotten before, because it's always been deception, and now this is like outright conflict.
Yeah.
So I liked that.
There's good stuff here. There's kernels of good stuff here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That acid dodge, zero gravity thing.
That was cool,
Cool.
That's a video game level right there.
Yeah. You like navigate through, swim through the acid as you've turned off gravity. Yeah. But I loved that. I loved how it looked. Like I fully believed that she was zero gravity trying to navigate through acid. And also I'm somebody who thinks too much when I watch a movie. So I'm always like, something will get like mentioned in an offhand comment, and I'm like, to nobody, I'm like, that's going to come back later. Yeah. I did not sit there when the gravity thing happened to go, well, that's going to come back later, because I was like engrossed in the movie. And so when it did come back later, even with like the silly idea of a dad joke being how she thinks of it, I was like, oh, okay, well, you distracted me enough from this that I was not going, well, use the gravity, use that. Like I wasn't 2 steps ahead of our characters. Yeah. I was right there with them.
So I think David Johnson is one of the better things too about the film. I think his performance is really strong in this. But that's another part of the line that I didn't really click with me too, is that he doesn't have that kind of emotional range. There's at no other point I can remember in the film that he's like angry. Now I guess he's protecting his sister,
Yeah.
but I never got to the point where, because he seems more timid and childlike until he gets his new directive, and he just comes much more, I don't know what, effective.
Yeah.
But I never got a rage from him up until that exact moment. I think that's another reason why it didn't feel as authentic to me. And did you notice that as well, or did you kind of just roll with that?
It felt weird. It felt like there was a piece missing. Like, why did he say it? Other than because it's a reference.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does it, and then he like looks over his shoulder at her and says it. So it's like there should be like a scene somewhere, like on the cutting room floor, that's supposed to be a callback, not just to Aliens, but like somewhere earlier in the film that they took out.
Yeah,
maybe.
it feels like there's a piece of that missing that would make it make more sense.
Juan, how do you feel about this then? I got to be honest with you. I watched Covenant the other day. And that film's really started to grow on me. Matt, just as a reminder too, we both gave that a B+ when we first watched it. I looked it up. And I love what Ridley Scott was doing with those films. I've been a Prometheus fan. I remember I missed that episode of ScreenRun. Yeah. Was it Juan and was it Megan? I think
yes,
it was to you. And neither of you were really big fans of it, right? But
we liked pieces of it, but we were angry a decent amount.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I really enjoy both those films, and I love Covenant even more now upon my rewatch of it. It's nihilistic, it's mean, it is relentless, it is just a disturbing, violent film, but also Ridley takes big swings with it, with both films, but particularly with Covenant. I know I've seen this pop around online, so I'm sure I'm borrowing this from somebody, but I love the concept that basically going to find God and just finding out that God hates the hell out of you. He hates your guts, basically, right? And I love that whole kind of concept, and I really wish we could have seen at least the wrap up, the final real bridge from his trilogy to Alien that supposedly is written, and I don't know if we'll ever see.
Yeah.
But it just didn't perform well enough, and then the whole Disney purchase came in and everything got thrown into the air. But how about after watching this, do you want to see this continue on in this vein, or would you rather maybe not necessarily Scott's run, but try and tackle things a little larger than just a amusement park ride?
Both paths forward have an audience and have really strong potential, but I don't think they overlap at all when it comes to what you'd want to see from them. And I think that's ultimately the challenge, is this movie has been successful. And I think that's going to be the direction they're going to want to continue in, is, okay, let's just do the haunted house thing. Let's just do the monster movie thing. Because, people went and saw it. I think like the more heady stuff, like who are we in the universe? What does this all mean? All of that. Like, I was revisiting my notes from Alien Covenant, and a lot of my frustration came from the fact that I felt like Ridley Scott kind of gave up on his idea and just like it got lost in the sauce, and was like, if you're going to do that, just do that. Don't do this nonsense. And I think it would be really an interesting idea to kind of expand in both directions with this franchise and just do both, because they don't have to overlap. We are in different timelines completely. But I don't know, even though I enjoyed this movie and it was scary and gross and exciting, I don't want them to make another one of this in 3 years just because I saw it this time. Don't just do it again just to go, oh, we made another one. Like, go somewhere else with it. And I feel like I am happy with this for what it was, which is, basically like the original film again, plus a little bit more action. So the best parts of the first and second one. But because it's been so long since we had one of those, I'm happy with this, but you don't need to do it again every 5 years just to prove a point, just to make your franchise money. Like, if you don't have something new to do or say, don't just copy paste.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think the best parts of the first two films, which are the best ones, is because everything is so unknown, right? It is truly like an alien thing, and you don't know why it is it's doing what it's doing. You don't know how it's doing what it's doing, and that's what makes it effective. So now they've built out all this mythology, right? So I don't know if you can put the genie back in that bottle. Like, even if you gave me a completely standalone story, which I think you could do. I mean, being an old man comic nerd from, you know, the 90s, I can remember all the Dark Horse comics where they had the rights to Alien and they just told like these self-contained stories just of different stuff. And I think that's a good way to do it, because the kind of mystique and mystery of it and all the kind of lore of it is out there now. That's not really working anymore. And I don't know if you want to just keep throwing more and more lore out there, whereas just like, okay, now you've got this monster, you know how it works, let's put it into a scenario which maybe you haven't seen before, kind of thing. So I think probably go more standalone, less interconnected, because we know pretty much everything we need to know about the alien itself.
Well, yeah, I guess the one thing we're still missing is how it got so widespread. How did it get to LV, whatever the hell it is, right? All that. No, like, we know how many of them were created, so how many there were. Wow, I'll get there because of the end of Covenant. But also too, don't forget, Hulu's got that show next year, which takes place 3 decades before the first film, that serves as a prequel to Alien. So, and it's on Earth.
You're doing your first. TV show for your podcast. Season 3.5.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's, on the one hand, there's so much, but then like, what else are you gonna do with the monster? You know, like, we've seen it, and like, it's super scary and cool, but it's you got to do something new with it, and I feel like so much of these movies, it's where it's different from like a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street, because that's about the kill, and like, you're like, I'll watch another one because I just want to see more inventive ways of killing people. This is about, like, yes, there is always some good iconic kills, especially in the first ones, but the rest of it is about the tension and like the trying to escape and all of that. And it's, the kills are not the defining part of it. There are defining kills, but that's not, it's different from a Freddy, Jason, whatever
slasher.
Like, you just keep making new ones of those, and like, people are fine with the same story, because I want to see, you know, what inventive way you're going to use to take down some stupid camper. But this is the same alien. Like, it's not using different fun tools. Like, the alien is not going to have a crossbow in a future movie. Like, it's got the tail, it's got its mouth. Like, it's, I don't know. I think one thing I did like in this that I felt like was added to the alien was the motivation, and like, it's using her as Kay, when she's in that room, they're like, no, the alien is using her as bait right now, and like, we can't fire these guns, but hopefully they don't know that, and this will hold them off. And I feel like the thought process, the motive, the planning has not been as much of a focal point. I'm not going to say it was never there, but I don't feel like it's been this important in past Alien films, and I really liked that. I liked that addition. I felt like it makes it more menacing, that it's like holding this girl there, and it's not going to jump down because it wants you to open the door.
That's a good point.
It's creepy.
All right. Yeah, well, the new show is, I guess, helmed by Noah Hawley, who did the Fargo show that won a bunch of awards, as well as Legion, which I think Matt is a big fan of, with a first-run favorite, Dan Stevens.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that shakes out. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. But too, this was supposed to be a Hulu original film at one point, too. I think that would have been a mistake. Bad enough we got screwed over the Prey theatrical experience. So I'm glad they pushed this to the theater.
Yeah, this is definitely theater worthy. So I'm glad I had the reason to go out and see it in theaters and really kind of be immersed in it. I jumped several times. Then I feel so embarrassed when I jump.
Any final thoughts? Anything anybody want to share there before we give it a grade and eggs and all the other fun stuff?
In general, I really liked this. It's hard to judge it on its own merits, because so much of what I liked about it is stuff I've seen before. Like, that's why I liked it. But you still have to do it, and you have to do it well. And that's not a given. So, you know, this movie is very well made. And, you know, the people working on it did a great job, in my opinion. Like, it's shot well. It really worked for me. And it's just challenging to kind of grade it independently because it is so dependent on its source material.
Matt?
Yeah, I think overall this is a successful exercise. I had fun. Maybe I had higher expectations based off of some of the films that we've seen before and things like by Fede Alvarez that we've, you know, the remakes and the other dips into other universes that he's had. But overall, I think, yeah, there were some eye-rolling moments or some things I would prefer that they didn't do, but I think there's enough here to, you know, kind of expand the universe. It's scary. It's nasty at times. It's pretty inventive. You know, and honestly, even though everybody's basically a walking body count, I'm completely fine with that through the whole thing. So overall, I think it's a pretty successful exercise. Yeah. And so I feel like I've kind of been, we've been shitting on it for the past 32 minutes and 37 seconds, but I think the grade may surprise you. It's overall, I had a pretty good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I agree with everything you said, which is funny because you're right. I think I've been pretty negative throughout the whole thing, but I am sitting, I think, at a B for it, and which would I think would also I'd give it 3.5 eggs for the Alien rating score.
Well, so I put it on my letterbox. I gave it 4 stars when I came out of the film. I think listening to you guys talk shit for the past half hour. I think No, I did. Yeah,
I liked it.
I'm kind of been waffling between a 3.5 and 4 eggs. I think I'm going to be contrary. I'm going to go with 4 eggs. I'm going to give it a B+ on the first run scale.
One.
Yeah, I very similar as far as like my reasoning. I think I told a friend on Sunday that I'd give it a 3 out of 5, but as I keep thinking about it, I'm like, I'll bump that up to a 3.5 because there's nothing really that I found wrong with it. It's just, it's not an original, you know, anything. Mm-hmm. It's so reliant on the source material. But if it completely deviated, we'd be shit talking that. So, you know, what are you gonna do? So I think I'm gonna say like a B, and I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It's you know, it's a good movie. It's a good scary movie, and if you could show this to somebody who'd never seen any Alien movies before and had no concept of this, they'd be like, "Holy shit, that was amazing." So if somehow someone has managed to not know about all of those movies, I think they'd be super stoked by watching this.
So what do you think, Matt? I started doing this to Matt the other week. On Ranker, they have ranked the 800 plus people have ranked the Alien films. Mm-hmm. So counting them down minus, well, you know what? We'll include AVP just for you, Wan.
Oh, no.
Well, actually, we'll just do the... Yeah, all right. So what do you think comes in at number 9?
Requiem. AVP Requiem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The worst thing ever.
Where do they have it 8 now?
They probably have regular.
But I feel like the
wouldn't.
Resurrection, the 4th one, is worse than AVP.
Ooh.
I don't think so. But yeah, Resurrection is listed next at number 8. 7 then is one I wholeheartedly disagree with. In fact, I may have just talked about it a few minutes ago.
Is it Covenant?
Wow, that's
it is
way
indeed.
too
They
low.
have Covenant in at 7.
I don't know. I hate that movie.
So then what would
AVP?
6 be? Yep. AVP is coming in at 6.
Alien's
Number
gotta be
5.
3.
3.
Prometheus?
Nope.
Romulus.
Nope.
Wow.
Romulus
okay.
coming in at 5 on Ranker. So then
That's
number
gotta be
4.
3. Okay.
Alien 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So then number 3 must be Prometheus, right?
Prometheus?
So
Well, I know
1,
what
2,
I
and
would
1.
pick, but I think I'm in the minority. But I prefer Aliens to so I think it'd be
You
Alien than Aliens is what I would pick. Although I don't think that's right.
That is the correct order. And Juan, where do you come down on that?
Yeah, same, because it is correct.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, folks.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Alien Romulus? We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at, you know what? Let's go screenrunfun@gmail.com. All right?
Ooh.
So there you go. And then we're going to just do a little first run segment now. We're going to talk about what's coming up on physical media this upcoming Tuesday, August 27th. I am really excited about this one. It's being released here domestically in 4K in a steelbook. I don't need to own it because I already bought the Second Sight Deluxe Edition. But, Matt, I think, actually, I don't know how to realize, I don't think I'm allowed to play this clip. Oh, no, this is a ScreenRun episode, I'm going to say. So now I can play this clip.
You Shannon's buddy, right? We met last year. You drove me and my brother back from Palm Springs. We hired another wheelman. I spent 6 months in jail. My brother, he got himself killed. I got this sweet job coming up.
How about this? Shut your mouth, or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and I'll shut it for you.
Those are my beloved synths. That's right. Drive is being released in 4K here in the U.S. You can get a steelbook version of it right now. Just the steelbook version is available. But I already own it, and I've already watched it a couple times, and it's gorgeous. So there you go. Coming in at number 5.
Number 5.
Kino Cult is putting out a group of films, which includes Squirm, The Food of the Gods, Frogs, and Empire of the Ants, all being released in Blu-ray this upcoming Tuesday with brand new special features, some new transfers as well. So if you love your kind of cheesy, kind of cult animals attack movies, Kino Cult has got you covered this week.
4.
What else we got? Oh, wait, you know what? I think it's supposed to be 2. I don't think it's listed in here. But Kingdom of the Spiders is included as well, which is one of my favorites as a kid, because it's the one with Bill Shatner in it, when the spiders take over the town. And I'll never forget, as a kid, watching the end of that movie when the camera pans out and the entire town is just covered in spider webs and everybody's now trapped inside their homes and stuff. And it's good. Yeah, gross. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Matt, is being released. There's going to be a steelbook version of that as well. 14 deleted extended scenes and more. Juan, did you catch up with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I didn't.
Well, that's
I
what
meant
counts.
to.
That's what counts. But it's on one of the streaming services.
Yeah.
I'm not going to recommend it as a streaming pick of the week, but it is on one of the streaming services. I think it's Hulu, and you can watch it now at your leisure.
There you go.
Can you hit it from there?
I got 3 shots. That's enough.
Can't argue with a confident man.
Your number 3 this week is The Watchers, a film we did for the first run a few weeks ago about some scary fairies. And it's fine. It's nothing. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. So, Watchers. There you go. Board's not responding. Here we go.
That's a number 2.
Watchmen Chapter 1. This is an animated release from the DCU from Warner Brothers. Matt, written by J. Michael Straczynski. I should say adapted by. I know you're a fan of him. That's Mr. Babylon 5,
Correct.
if I'm remembering correctly. So this is, I guess, the first part of the animated adaptation of the classic story from Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. So you can pick that up. And then finally, Criterion is releasing a pair of Albert Brooks films. Real Life, which I already have in 4K. I got it early thanks to my buddy Shelby at Viper Video. And also Mother, both being released in 4K from Criterion this upcoming Tuesday. Very excited about that. Matt, some other 4Ks. Desperado is being released in 4K. And I think that's the first time I saw Salma Hayek and my life was forever changed. Double Jeopardy, Thieves Like Us, Last Year at Marienband, Alphaville, the Mexico Trilogy, Robert Rodriguez's 3 films there all being in 4K. The Van Damme film Sudden Death, Reptilicus from Vinegar Syndrome, which is kind of the Scandinavian Godzilla, if you haven't seen it. And then Poltergeist 2. Matt, your Viper Video pick of the week. Remember, folks, go over to vipervideotampa.com for all your physical media needs. Slasher Fetish. James grapples with his wife's death, supernatural attacks, and eerie phenomena. That's not right. That is the wrong write-up. That one's more about Mama Bear. All right, so we'll do Mama Bear. You can Google slasher fetish at your own leisure, because I'm not going to take the time to look it up, and it's really disturbing. But it's going to be, you know what?
That's a dangerous Google, Chris.
I'm going to, yeah, that's true. You know what? I have it right here. I'll just read it off of my phone. That's how much a professional I am. And here we go. Slasher fetish tickled to death. Enter the twisted world of slasher fetish, the latest sexy slasher sensation from Die Star Pictures. Meet Bob the Cat, a 7-foot-tall hillbilly with a sinister smile and a deadly tickle fetish. Donning his trademark overalls, Bob prowls the backwoods in search of his next giggling victim. With a lust for laughter and a penchant for peril, he turns terror into titillation in this pulse-pounding thriller. Will his prey find escape, or will they be tickled to their final breath? One thing's for sure. Slasher fetish will have you squirming in your seat and laughing in fear. Matt, what should we be streaming this week? I was Juan's laughing because she's like, I already own this like on VHS. I have it on DVD. I have the audiobook.
Well, I'm going to recommend go out to Hulu, our Disney / overlords who own all this stuff now, and go check out basically any alien film you want. I think the sixth worst, Covenant, is available for your viewing pleasure. So go check that one out and tell us how they're wrong. How Ranker is wrong.
They are indeed wrong.
Yes.
So now we'll transition to the end of the show where we're going to share our favorite scenes from each of the Alien movies, minus AVP, as I decree. And then also we're going to talk about our favorite, depends on how you like to say it, performance from Alien Romulus. But first, here's a clip that didn't quite make the cut for me, but I still think it's pretty cool.
You think we wasted our time coming here, don't you?
Your question depends on me understanding what you hope to achieve by coming here.
What we hope to achieve was to meet our makers, to get answers. Why they even made us in the first place.
Why do you think your people made me?
We made you because we could.
Can you imagine how disappointing it would be for you to hear the same thing from your creator? May I ask you something?
Please do.
How far would you go to get what you came all this way for? Your answers. What would you be willing to do?
Anything and everything.
Boy, you're going to regret that decision. So, what do you think? Should you want to cover the performances now and then dive into our favorite scenes? Or do you want to close it out with the performances? Juan, this is your show. What would you like to do?
Let's close it out with the performances. Let's go through the franchise first.
So, what do you have first, Juan? What's your favorite scene from the first film?
So my favorite scene from the first Alien is the moment where Ash's head gets knocked off, because I legitimately did not know that would happen. And there's so much of Alien in general that, like, just the lore is out there, and somehow that piece of information had escaped me when I saw it for the first time in 2020. So I screamed. I was shocked. And so, like, that stands out as, like, my favorite scene in that film, because it's the one that had a completely genuine surprise to me when everything else really can't have that anymore. So, yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, mine's pretty much the same. It's the Ash reveal and then a subsequent attack. I mean, I think Chestburster is the layup. I think that's the lazy fans' choice. As I look at
That's
Matt.
the obvious answer.
But yeah, and one of my favorite things about that too, because I've seen that movie, I've watched Alien so many times. There's a few films that I have like in a constant rotation that I'll put on in the background while I'm doing other things, and Alien is one of them. But I remember watching it like maybe it was for ScreenRun, I can't remember. But at one point, I think Parker, Yaphet Kotto's Parker, his dialogue clearly is like ADR. It's added in to say Ash is a robot. He's a goddamn robot. Just I think probably in test screenings are like, what's happening? I don't understand. Is he an alien? Right? So they had to add that in because it clearly sounds added in later.
Yeah.
But just the betrayal when he tries to suffocate her with the magazine, like all of that stuff is just so deeply unsettling. So yeah, that's my pick.
All right, well,
as
I won't
Matt?
be boring and pick the same thing, and I'll pick something with the actual fucking alien in it in the movie. So I'm not going to pick the Chestburster scene because as loath as I am to admit it, Chris is correct. It is a bit of a layup. It is the classic scene, but it is classic for a reason. So I don't blame you if that's your favorite scene. But my favorite scene is Dallas being hunted in the air ducts, where it's the basically, just a ratcheting of suspense where it's just kind of going and going until it gets to an all-time classic jump scare at the end. Although also points for Brett looking for Jonesy by himself. Poor Brett.
Yeah. I love Tom Skerritt in that film too. Everything he's so subtly just kind of put upon all the time in the film. Like there's that one scene where they're talking about, well, it's only 300 miles or 300 feet or whatever the distance, I can't remember, but it's only so far away. And then his reaction is like, oh boy, because you want to go out there, aren't you? It just his deliveries throughout the whole thing are just some of my favorite aspects of the entire film. All right, Matt, why don't you start us off the other way? Aliens.
I could have made a whole list of favorite scenes from this film, but I think my favorite scene, and it was tough, but I think my favorite, again, that kind of in a kind of parallel to the whole Dallas being hunted in the shafts is the fact of them taking their last stand in the med bay, where the beeping keeps getting closer and closer and closer, and then they kind of look up at the ceiling and they stick their heads up there and they're all up there and they all just jump through it, and then it just switches on a dime to just action packed, shooting war scene, and it's just chef's kiss. It's so good. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah, so scary. Mine is, honestly, it was the first thing I thought of when I was choosing my favorite kind of moment in Aliens. And then I got really embarrassed because I feel like it's an obvious one because it's like the gif for the movie. It's the xenomorph coming out of the water behind Newt, and the tail is just like it's just so cool. And it's the visual of it. Like it doesn't even have to move. It could just be a frame. And it's so cool. But the movement's amazing.
For me, I keep going back and forth. First off, I was like, well, confronting the Queen. Is it the forklift fight? Mm-hmm. Right? Is it the Matt scene where there's the final confrontation in the med bay, which is fantastic as well. But there's a smaller scene that I really appreciate is after they rescue Ripley and Newt, and then Ripley kind of relays the story of how Burke has betrayed everybody. And how his whole story, everything kind of unravels right there. It's a moment of just like, screw you, man, standing up to the man, all this stuff, and then also Burke finally meeting his fate in the med bay confrontation.
Yeah.
But it's one of the more human interactions for me of the film is the confrontation with Burke. I think in a weird way, I enjoy because Reiser is so good in that film. He's so slimy. Mm. And then when she finally reveals everything, and what is Hicks saying? You're dog meat, pal. That kind of thing, right? I mean, there's so many great. I just love the Burke confrontation. I know it's a weird thing, but I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
All right. So what should I go with? Alien 3.
Yeah. What you got?
I think. Well, I'm going to go I guess I'm not a big fan of Alien 3. I know some people. It has its people who really love the film.
It's not very good.
And even the assembly cut, I think, doesn't really work. I guess it's the attack scene in the mess hall or the med bay area for that film. Mm-hmm. When was it Hugh? What's his name? The guy from Game of Thrones and her love air quotes Charles Dance. Yeah, he basically when he gets taken. Right, and then the alien comes up and goes right next to her, right face to face, and then pulls away. And at that instant, like as an audience member, we kind of know exactly why that might be. And I would add, too, there's one little very kind of funny scene afterwards where there's a guy mopping up all the blood from beneath the hole in the ceiling. And as he's doing it, he kind of peeks up into the hole just to make sure there's nothing there. But I still think the face-to-face confrontation between Ripley and the alien is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I, again, revisiting, I really like Alien 3. I think I was mad for a lot of it. But I love Lance Henriksen. So I waffled back and forth between busted up Bishop trying to recap, or whatever they're calling him, Bishop 2 coming back at the end, and I think it's his character as human possibly coming at the end to be like, I'm here because I'm a trusted face to you, because I was like, oh, it's him again. I was really excited to see him. So I think that's my favorite, is him coming in at the end trying to convince her.
Huh. Yeah, that's it's tough. It's tough to pick out a best scene from Alien 3. I think we've laid out both of them right here. I think I, though, have to go with one. I would go back to the rebooting of Bishop and kind of like the callback to kind of rebooting a damaged Ash and having the conversation with him. Again, a callback to an earlier scene, but it seems to work because obviously it's such a, Bishop is such a different calming presence, and at the same time, this guy who was always kind of positive and never say die, or at least not gloom and doom in the first one. It's like, well, you're fucked, sorry, like there's nothing we can do about this. So I guess it kind of lays out the hopelessness of the situation.
Yeah,
there you go.
Christ.
All right, Matt, Resurrection. Isn't that the alien human baby thingy?
What? Yeah, so there's like 3 scenes. Well, okay, there's 4 scenes that come to mind when I think of this film. There's the Sigourney Weaver making the basketball shot in real life, which I think is probably the most impressive thing about the film. The Chucky torturing the aliens behind glass, and then breaking free. That dude, like, strapped to that guy's back, like shooting at the alien is trying to come up, and it's like such bad CGI dodging out of the way. But I think what I have to go with is just the absolutely ridiculous alien-human hybrid when it starts to get sucked out into space, and it makes that weird, like, Cupid doll face as it's trying to garner our sympathies as it's being sucked out the airlock. Although, yeah, I guess I won't steal anybody's supposed thunder and what could be left at this point, but I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm going with the basketball shot. It's the only thing that like immediately pops out to me about that movie because it's so ridiculous. So.
Yeah, or any scene with Winona Ryder probably would be.
She's just luminous.
She is.
I can't remember a single thing she says in the movie, though.
Me neither. I couldn't remember the character's name. I had to look it up. The guy, not her, but the character Purvis, when he gets kind of picked on all the time. And he's infected. So what he does is when his chest burster hits, he gets behind the guy who always picks on him and beats him up. So when it bursts through, it goes through his head. And that is what kind of sticks out to me, for sure.
It's mean. It's very mean.
So, all right, does it give you Prometheus? I think it does.
Yeah, this one was a bit of an easy one, even though I didn't really love the movie, because I loved my conversation with Megan about it, and it was her favorite scene, and she got me to love it, which is the Shaw surgery pod scene. It's visceral, it's terrifying, it's intense, it's a ticking clock. It's all the things you want from an alien film.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. I think it's the best thing in the film, and one of the scariest scenes in the entire franchise.
Yeah, same. Sure. Same. When she's holding that thing and you're just waiting for it to come to life, and I'm like, drop it and get out of there. Like that is drop that thing. Whatever that is, that ain't a baby. Drop it. So Covenant, I think the thing that immediately jumps to mind to me, again, because it's so ridiculous, but I still kind of love it at the same time, is the latest version of Alien Hybrid, the kind of, Cupid doll baby skin version of Alien, and then of course it brutally murders one of the crew, and then David just comes up and has a nice little moment about how he's bonding with it as a horse, and then they shoot it and he gets really mad at them, as I think is one of the more ridiculous scenes that stands out in my mind from Covenant.
For myself, I would go for Covenant. I'm gonna go the ending. When Waterston's character Daniels is about to go into cryo sleep, she's totally helpless at this point, realizes that it's not Walter, it's David. Mm-hmm. And just the fear in her eyes, and then she goes to sleep. It's terrifying because she knows she's helpless and she's going to be used as an experiment, a guinea pig, just like Shaw was. And then when he comes back around and says, and now I have my queen, as he touches her cryo bed thing. Oh my God. It's one of the darkest endings of a film I can remember. So that's mine. One.
Yeah. That I think that is the best and scariest scene in it, but because I low-key hated this movie, my choice is the stupid little like David waving to the baby and the baby waving back their little two-handed hi daddy, like, because I hate this movie, and so that's what I identify it with. So
is it accurate to say that you low-key hate it, because it seems like a visceral hate? It seems like a pretty high strong
high key hate it. I really do. It's one of those, it builds up in me where I'm like, no, I didn't really like that movie. And after 5 minutes, I'm like, you know what? That's the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, it builds. It builds. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it made me big mad. But yeah, the little two-handed wave.
Yeah. Fine. All right. So, do you have a favorite scene then from Romulus?
You know, it's pretty bad that, like, I said I liked the movie, but there isn't one that immediately comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like that's kind of undermining my score that I gave it earlier. But I feel like some of what I liked about this movie was, the things I liked the most, I guess, are the things that were different than what we've seen before. And I really liked Andy and in particular, his moment where he's kind of throwing it back in her face, but in a very understated way, to be like, we wouldn't leave somebody behind.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not the action. It's not all the scary stuff. It's not all the jump scares. It's not the gross stuff, but it's the very human interaction. And I feel like that was the human interaction with the synthetic human.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I'm trying to think what would the problem. I think part of the problem with this film with Romulus is that I think a lot of the more scenes that are going to be kind of iconic from the film, or at least that are going to stand the test of time, are in the trailer. So like you all know that they're there. But I think for me, just the climactic monster, just the callback, and just how just wrong the damn thing looks. He's coming back around and he's like got her cornered and he's got that big shit-eating grin on his face. It's just wrong on so many levels. It's like honestly nightmare fuel. Like that whole creature design is just of all the hybrid things that we've seen is I think by far the most disturbing.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with you, Matt. I think the final confrontation with the new alien is just unsettling on a lot of different
He's so
levels.
happy about it. He's standing there smiling.
The acid thing is good, but yeah. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. All right. Take us home, Juan. What do you want to do next? Give us our final segment.
Now we're going to select our favorite performance from Alien Romulus.
All right. Well, as the guest now to this show, I will go.
Yep, you shifted to the guest.
So I think really it kind of boils down to maybe one of two people, but I guess I'm going to go with David Johnson as Andy. I think it's as playing as the damaged android or synthetic person that is kind of brings a degree of innocence to the whole thing that you sympathize with him, and then suddenly when he gets better, maybe your sympathies were misplaced. But it's his whole performance is being able to turn it on a dime. He's all very believable in how he sells everything that's going on.
Yeah, he's my pick as well. He's basically playing two characters, and I think again it does another thing that Aliens does well, is it gives you sort of a sympathetic character who needs protecting, who you kind of feel for. Andy is obviously a very different character from Newt, but it's again the relationship between like our female protagonist and this character she has a bond with and wants to take care of, but also like you're seeing her struggle of what do I do with him, and he doesn't punish her for what she chooses to do as far as making decisions for him, but like he brings so much humanity to a non-human character. I think he's giving the best performance in this movie. I think if it weren't for what he's doing, it would be far more generic.
Yahtzee. I agree with both of you. Yeah, he is the easy pick. I think Kaylee Spaney's solid. She's really good too. Everybody else is kind of has their moments, I guess, but yeah, it's Johnson's film. He runs away with it absolutely. So
yeah, he's great.
Oh, Juan, I forgot. We got to do a quick little score corner too.
Yeah.
Benjamin Wallafish, who did the score for this. I think
that's a fun name.
Yeah, it is. I think it's an interesting score. The issue is, or the challenge, or I don't know, is that he pulls movements from Alien and Aliens and Prometheus.
Yeah.
Right? So he pulls them all and kind of works them in appropriately when we're referencing whatever film we're trying to bridge to, whatever the case may be. So, but it's still, there's parts of it I found to be very effective. Some nice bong, kind of this intense kind of bass hits and stuff. So overall, I think the score is actually pretty strong. I don't think it's as good as Aliens or Alien, which are two classics, particularly that first one, but it's a solid effort, and I think it undergirds the film well. So,
yeah, I think the score is kind of indicative of the movie itself, right? It's homages to the other things, and it's the good parts, and it's doing it well, but it's not. It's really hard to be like, this is so great when it could not exist without everything else first.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's, the book report can't be better than the book.
Right.
So,
that's a nice
but it was
way
a
to
good
put
read.
So that's that, folks. Juan, I really appreciate you going along with this hybrid episode idea of the first run and screen run.
This is fun.
So check out, of course, the screen run at screenrun.fun.
Yes.
Season 2 is all Aliens, and we just wrapped up our Body Snatchers run about a few weeks ago, so you can catch up with that as well. And email us there at screenrunfun at gmail.com.
Well, I look forward to doing this again then for the 4:30 movie, making another hybrid episode as we're sitting here.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep doing them.
There you go. And in the meantime, too, check us out at thefirstrun.com. You can find archives of the old shows. There's a little player there, the report card, and more. Head on over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run or Screen Run, though I don't think we're on some of those. But we're on all your podcast platforms, so you can definitely find it there. And then search for the First Run, scroll. Eventually, you'll find us. Head over to Apple Podcasts, give Screen Run and The First Run a review to help other people find the show. And I guess that's that, right? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah. So I do want to ask one thing before we sign off. I believe I'm in the lead now, right? I think I've got first. No, what did you?
No.
What did you score?
No, you're not. I pulled it up. I appreciate you bringing this up, Matt. So we have the Rotten Tomatoes score game where Matt and I project scores, and Alien Romulus came in at 81%.
Oh, okay.
Matt, you had
I thought
65.
it was in the 70s. Okay.
I had
Fair
72.
Enough. Fair enough.
Oh.
So it's Price is Right rules, Juan. So the closest without going
I
over.
thought I was much higher than that. Oh, well, I guess.
Yeah. Do you take the win away from each other if the score changes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we look at it like Friday morning. I think typically like Friday at noon.
Matt's like slowly waiting for the score to drop down, and he's gonna be like, "Take my point back."
Gonna hack into Rotten Tomatoes and start deleting scores or just creating sock puppet accounts to lower the score.
Yeah, just typing away. I'm in.
Yeah, next is The Crow. I have 36. You have 32.
Oh wow!
I think you're gonna win that one.
Not a lot of wiggle room there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not confident about that one. So we'll find out next week, though. So, all right, that's it. We're going to go ahead take an extended break. Juan, thank you so much again for doing this. Matt, pleasure as always. And we'll see you all again soon. Take care. We love you. Bye.
Game over, man. It's game over.
So good.